Welcome to the AI Music Report podcast. James Cameron has been sued for using a 14-year-old's face without asking. You might recall the Avatar franchise. Well, Koreanka Kilcher, Indigenous actress Yellowstone, played Pocahontas in the New World, and she has sued James Cameron. The story goes that when she was 14, James Cameron saw her photo in the LA Times and he directed his team to laser scan her facial features into 3D software. Isn't that crazy? I mean, you would have thought that James Cameron should know better. This film has made 2.92 billion, first film alone. And she found out in 2025 when a clip of Cameron at his own Paris museum exhibit went viral. Standing in front of his original sketch of the character, Neytiri, he said the actual source for this was a photo in the LA Times, a young actress named Koreanka Kilcher. This is actually her lower face. She thought it was a personal gesture. She had no idea her face was in the pipeline. The lawyer's phrase, not inspiration. This was extraction. I'm curious to know what you think about this. Drop me a comment below. Let's move to story number 2. A Stanford Reed study was talked about in the news this week. They published a peer reviewed study, and listeners were given tracks. Some were told the music was AI generated, and some were told it was human. In some cases, they were told wrong. It was all part of the experiment. When listeners believed the track was AI, regardless of reality, they engaged less deeply. They formed fewer personal narratives and they reported less emotional connection. The label prejudiced the listener before a note played. Now, why is this a problem for the whole policy debate? Every campaign demanding mandatory AI disclosure assumes disclosure is straightforwardly good. More information is better. Transparency builds trust. I'm curious to know what you think about that. Number 3, let's talk about the Deezer platform data. 75,000 AI generated tracks per day. So for Deezer, that is 44% of their global daily upload volume. But we can kind of infer that what is happening on Deezer is likely happening on Spotify as well. To put that in scale, 75,000 tracks per day is more than Spotify typically adds in an entire month. But when you look at the data of who is listening, less than 3% of those tracks get streamed by actual humans. And Deezer says majority of even that 3% bot driven, not real listeners. They demonetize such streams. So as far as people listening to AI, fully AI created music, or even remotely, as long as that stamp is on there on Deezer, the likelihood of anyone listening is extremely low. Story number 4, Google rebranded producer AI, and I show this on the channel. They're now called Google Flow Music. And going a step further, the partnership, Believe, a $1 billion plus distributor operating in 50 plus countries, will offer Flow Music to its artists and to TuneCore's independent artist base as a creative collaborator tool. Google's ownership statement is Google does not claim ownership of the original content generated with Flow Music. Now there's a catch. The catch is that a group of independent musicians filed a separate lawsuit in March accusing Google of training Lyria 3 on YouTube recordings without permission or payment. We don't claim ownership of outputs is a TOS position, but whether the model was actually trained is an active legal question. The two things are independent. Believe's dual approach, simultaneously blocking distribution of AI tracks from unlicensed pirate studios while investing in what it calls value creative AI tools. The line it's drawing between legitimate and illegitimate AI has not been legally tested. So, my friends, you're seeing that in the world, the attitude towards AI music is in a balance, as we're about to see in this next story. In this next story, this is someone of repute in the industry. And Antonoff says to everyone who is gassed up about the new ways you can fake making art, by all means, drive right off that cliff. One of the most commercially successful producers alive. He's worked with Taylor Swift and he's worked with Kendrick. But his specific language is it's faking the making of art, not the product. What do you think? Do you think Antonoff has a point? Drop me a comment below. He said you should just go drive off that cliff if you're getting gassed up and jacked up and excited about AI music. On the flip side, we have another artist who says adapt or just give up. And I'm talking about Diplo. Diplo says adapt or just give up and become an Uber driver. He added that behind closed doors, creators at every tier are already using these tools, confirming what Suno CEO Mikey Schulman said during Grammy Week when he spoke with Billboard. You might remember that edition on this channel. Another high profile drummer, El Estepario Siberiano, the high profile drummer, publicly called for musicians to boycott and refuse collaboration with users of generative text to music platforms, which is a harder line than most. And José González, on the flip side, a Swedish indie folk musician, said he used ChatGPT for structural concepts on his upcoming album. Now, this matters not because he's most famous, but because he's the most unexpected. If Gonzalez is using it, then the line has definitely moved. Now, when we take a look at what Jack Antonoff has said, his frustration is understandable. He spent his career mastering a craft that took years to learn. Watching that craft get commoditized overnight is genuinely painful, and his resistance comes from a real place. But resistance framed as contempt for people using these tools misses who those people actually are. And a lot of this stems from ignorance. AI music creation isn't just for people gaming royalty systems like Mike Smith. It's for the teenager with severe anxiety who can finally express something that she couldn't say out loud. It's for the veteran with PTSD who uses sound as therapy and who couldn't afford a studio. It's for the composer with Parkinson's whose hands no longer cooperate. And we have many like this on the channel, on the AI Creatives Connect channel. You see, it's not only for those folks, it's also for those whose musical imagination hasn't dimmed, but they're not able to coordinate their limbs as well. And it's for the nonverbal child who is using AI music as a tool to help them communicate for the first time. So dismissing AI creativity as faking art dismisses all of those individuals. And that is not a position, in my mind, worthy of someone who claims to care about what music does for people. The legitimate argument that AI threatens livelihoods and consent and compensation and all that stuff, right? The training data question is unsolved. It stands on its own, yes. It doesn't need contempt to make it stronger. It gets weaker when we actually come from a place of contempt and scorn and scourge. And Antonoff is right, about something being lost, but he's wrong about who deserves to bear the weight of that. And telling people to drive off a cliff, it just shows absolute ignorance and contempt for mental health. It also shows ignorance concerning those who have used real means, right, to create whatever they do, such as artists who are not brimming with as much vitriol and scorn as many in the music community. Also, coders and developers, they're not coming towards you with daggers and knives and saying, you're using AI to code, you should be ashamed of yourself, drive off a cliff. So when it comes to the world of music, it's very interesting how people's responses are, in my mind, quite extreme. And it's also very dangerous towards collaboration, both now and in the future. Number 6, Zar told ID Magazine in March that she feels at war with AI and the content being generated with it. The specific objection goes beyond the general quality concern. It's about what AI generates. When it tries to do black music, what she calls weird, stereotypical struggle music. And that connects to the point made at the Atlantic Music Expo in Cape Verde last month. Homogenization happens when the tool doesn't know where you're from. Standard AI models are trained on global data, which means predominantly Western data. And then applying that data to Afrobeat, R&B, and gospel, you could get some pretty interesting outcomes. She also flagged the economic dimension: AI covers of artists who just released music. The original artist can't collect those streams. Olivia Dean's example just came out and the AI cover exists. Honestly, I feel for those artists, totally understand that it's not okay. This has got to stop. And the only way it's going to stop is if WMG, UMG, and Sony build a better door. The last episode, I talked about the AI underground, where you have miscreants like this creating AI covers of artists who have put in the blood, sweat, and tears. That is not okay. Moving on to number seven, Michael Smith. I won't spend too much time here. The story has been out in the news for over a year, but Mike says he'll pay back the money and he will do time. And the possible amount of time he could do, the extreme would be 5 years. We'll see what happens. Mike is a poster child. He is, we could say he's a scapegoat, even though he deserves what he's got coming. But there are many other Michael Smiths who have not been caught. And finally, story number eight: the industry moves. Three quick ones here. Udio, after settling its major lawsuits with walled garden terms, says content can't leave the platform, but Udio is now actively hiring a $350,000 senior executive whose specific mandate is rebuilding labor relationships. This is the Spotify playbook: convert the enemy into a commercial partner by making it financially irrational to stay an enemy. Moving on, AI developer Sonilo signed a data partnership with Shutterstock to train a video to music model. The target: sync ready contextual scoring, automatically generated music that matches video content. The sync licensing market, one of the most lucrative ventures for professional composers, is the territory being industrialized here. Lastly, AI radio. Startups are now running fully autonomous AI radio stations on web networks. Takes text requests and generates audio live, which is pretty wild. No streaming platform fee, no distributor cut, and people are looking at this as a possible turnkey model. I really don't know if this is going to fly, but imagine people who are on the road and they've got an alternative to Sirius FM, and if the music is well curated and sounds up to snuff, who am I to say people shouldn't listen? You get what I'm saying? So this is the logical endpoint. If no legal door gets built, there's going to be a complete bypass of every existing commercial music infrastructure. So all I'm saying is everything has got to be above board. Finally, my friends, as I said earlier, every profession is facing AI disruption. There's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of extraction happening. James Cameron is an example of the extraction concept. And, every story this week has been asking that same question: who has the right to use what someone else created? Their face, their music, their cultural sound, their royalty pool, and under what conditions? James Cameron, Google, Deezer, Stanford, Antonoff, Diplo, Gonzalez, Smith, and Udio. They're all asking the same thing. None of them have built the answer yet. The legal door, the licensed, simple, fair pathway for creative AI use that routes royalties back to human artists, it remains unbuilt. And that's what this moment needs most. And that's the end of the AI Music Report podcast for the week. Thank you for watching. If you found value from this, do smash the like button, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.